Everyone thinks a crash should end the story. The bike is damaged, the body is damaged, the fear shows up immediately like it was waiting at the scene. And for most people, that should be enough. Sell the bike, walk away, choose something safer. But for a certain kind of rider, the crash does something strange. It does not close the door, it opens a deeper one. They go home with stitches, bruises, and a totaled machine, maybe months of recovery ahead of them, and the first thought is not always, "I'm done." Sometimes it's, "When can I ride again?" To people outside the culture, that sounds irrational. To the rider, it can feel like the only honest response to being reminded that life is fragile. And that is where the psychology gets interesting. Because this is not just about adrenaline, it is not just about denial, and it is definitely not just about being reckless. For many riders, the return after a crash is really about one thing: reclaiming authorship. A crash is never just metal hitting pavement. It can feel like a theft of confidence, of identity, of the version of yourself that believed you could move through the world with skill, with awareness, with freedom. So when a rider gets back on, they are not only returning to a machine, they are trying to return to themselves. Modern life makes this harder to explain than it should be. Most of daily life is abstract now. You sit, you scroll, you tap, you move through systems that are designed to keep you comfortable and detached from consequence. Motorcycling is the opposite of that. It forces you back into your body. Every input matters, every correction matters, every mistake has weight. And then a crash happens. Suddenly, the body, which felt competent and familiar, becomes vulnerable. The mind, which felt in control, becomes uncertain. The world, which felt predictable enough, reminds you that it is not. That moment does something deep to the brain. It creates a question that a lot of people never fully answer. Do I retreat from what hurt me, or do I rebuild my relationship with it? There's a man named Paul, 46 years old, from Colorado. He rode the same bike to work for 6 years. Rain, traffic, construction zones, the usual city chaos. He was careful. Not perfect, but careful. Then one afternoon, a car turned left across his lane. No dramatic villain, no chase, no movie scene, just a driver looking down for 1 second too long and looking up 1 second too late. Paul remembers the sound more than the impact. He remembers the bike sliding. He remembers the strange silence after everything stopped. And he remembers people saying the same thing over and over: "You're lucky." He hated that sentence, not because it was wrong, because it made survival sound passive, like he had simply been spared by coincidence. During recovery, everyone assumed he would sell the bike. That's what most people would do, or at least that's what they expect someone to do after a crash caused by somebody else's mistake. But Paul didn't see it that way. He spent the next few months watching riding videos, not as fantasy, but as rehabilitation. He wanted to restore trust in motion, in leaning, in braking, in the feeling of being in control of his own path again. When he finally rode again, he told a friend the first mile did not feel brave, it felt defiant. Not against the bike, against the idea that one random mistake from another human being gets to write the end of your story. That matters psychologically, because not all crashes come from rider error. Some come from other vehicles, some come from bad road design, some come from gravel, oil, weather, blind spots, a distraction that wasn't yours but still became your problem. When that happens, quitting can feel less like healing and more like surrendering your life to randomness, and the human mind hates that. Psychologists talk about locus of control, the degree to which a person believes outcomes are shaped by their own actions versus external forces. When a rider crashes because of something outside their control, the instinct to return can become a way of restoring agency. Not because the danger disappeared, because the rider refuses to let one external event own the rest of their life. That is one of the reasons people get back on so fast, or so stubbornly, or so quietly. They are not always chasing speed. Sometimes they are chasing control. There's another rider named Jonathan, 34 years old, from Atlanta. His crash was different. It was mostly his fault. Wet pavement, a little too much confidence, one lean angle too aggressive on a mountain road he thought he knew. The rear tire let go and he went down alone. No truck, no bad driver, no outside villain, just his, and the mistake. He spent almost a year replaying it, not in a dramatic way, in a detailed way. The kind of replay that doesn't let you sleep fully, the kind that returns at random moments and asks whether you were ever as skilled as you thought you were. At first, he wanted nothing to do with motorcycles. Then something shifted. He realized the crash had not only exposed risk, it had exposed the exact place where his attention had become lazy. So instead of treating the crash like a reason to quit, he treated it like information. He took advanced riding courses, he practiced emergency braking in empty lots, he started riding with people who were calmer and more experienced than he was. He rebuilt slowly. And when he returned, he said he was not trying to prove he was fearless, he was trying to prove he could become more precise. That is a different psychology entirely. Not compulsion, not fantasy, mastery. This is where self-efficacy comes in. Self-efficacy is the belief that your actions can still produce competence. A crash attacks that belief directly. It says your body can fail, your judgment can fail, your timing can fail. It confronts you with the limits of your own control. For some writers, the return is a way of saying, I know I can still learn. I know I can still improve. I know the crash is part of my story, but it is not the whole story. And once that belief returns, the machine changes. It is no longer just a source of thrill, it becomes a teacher. But let's be honest about something. Not every return is healthy. Sometimes people keep riding because stopping would force them to feel what they have been avoiding: the grief, the fear, the memory, the anger. The bike becomes an anesthetic, and speed becomes a distraction, and the road becomes a way to outrun the parts of the mind that are asking for attention. That is not courage. That is avoidance with a helmet on. And the difference matters. The rider who is rebuilding trust is doing one thing. The rider who is running from memory is doing another. One is integrating the crash. The other is being chased by it. That is why some people can't quit after a crash, even when everyone around them thinks they should. Because stopping is not always relief. Sometimes stopping feels like becoming smaller than the experience that hurt you. And for many riders, that feels impossible. There is also a community side to this that outsiders underestimate. A car driver sees a rider as one thing: vulnerable. Another rider sees more. They see the scar under the jacket, the careful glance at wet pavement, the unspoken respect in the wave, the quiet understanding that nobody on two wheels is here because life is easy. That little wave between riders says something profound. I see you. I know what the road can take. I know you came back. That recognition matters because after a crash, belonging becomes part of recovery. It tells the brain that injury did not exile you from your people. You are still one of us. You are still part of the story. And when you combine belonging with agency, something very powerful happens. Fear stops being a wall. It becomes a fact you can carry, a fact you can ride with. So why can't some people quit motorcycles after a crash? Because the crash does not always mean the same thing to the rider that it means to everyone else. Sometimes it means the world is unpredictable. Sometimes it means someone else made a mistake and you paid for it. Sometimes it means you made the mistake, and now you must become better than the version of yourself that made it. But in every case, the return is really a decision about identity. Will I let one violent moment erase the life I chose? Or will I come back more aware, more honest, more alive than before? For some riders, the answer is simple. They ride again because they know exactly what it costs to stay away. So let me ask you something. After a crash, what brought you back? Or what made you step away? I want to hear the real reason. And if this video hit home, subscribe for more psychological breakdowns like this.